Over the last 3 days, there were a handful of extremely important matches on the African continent in domestic leagues. We're going to be breaking down all of those matches, including the Soweto Derby, Pyramids versus Zamalek, and RS Berkane versus AFR, up next on the African Five-A-Side podcast. Welcome back to the African Football Report on the African Five-A-Side podcast. I'm your host, Maher Mazahi, and as always, this podcast is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. Africa as a Country has returned from its publishing break. We have some new articles up on the website. One that I read that was pretty interesting was about Jacob Zuma by Samuel Anim, who says, the former president's abiding presence in South African politics reveals the undercurrent of cultural populism and what can happen when local beliefs cut against the grain of liberal democracy. So I'll put a link to that article in the description below, and if you're interested, please go ahead and read it, as well as all the other great articles we have on the website. So without further ado, let's get into the matches. And the first match that I'm going to start with, because I think it was the most important match, is the Soweto Derby. And it was important for a few different reasons. First of all, just because it's such an iconic derby, right? But one thing that I like to see, I watched the match on SABC, is that it felt like everybody was very proud that the FNB stadium was full. And I think they should be. South Africans should be. It's 94,500 capacity. That's absolutely huge. It is the biggest stadium on the African continent. So for it to be full is something that I think should be a point of pride. I get the impression as well that, South African fans were sometimes hurt from the criticism from other African nations where they say, South Africans don't necessarily go to the stadium and so on and so forth. And they felt like this is like a way of bucking that trend, as well. So yeah, great for the PSL in general, great for these two clubs. And it did really feel like a sort of party or a festival heading into the match. However, speaking of parties and festivals, the pitch was not in a good state at all. The commentator had mentioned that there were many concerts leading up to the match, and you could sort of tell because players were slipping all over the pitch as early as in the first half. You could tell that hampered the pace of the match, even though it was played at a high pace. It could have probably notched up, 5 or 10% if the pitch was in better condition. Apologies. But one of the main reasons why I tuned in was that, first of all, I wanted to keep tabs on Orlando Pirates because obviously we've been covering the CAF Champions League in depth, and they're one of the teams to watch in the CAF Champions League. But other than that, I also wanted to just keep tabs on South African young talent because, Abs was spoken about tirelessly about Pirates and about the state of South African football. I think it's in such a good place at the moment. I wanted to keep my eyes on Mofokeng and Kota, but also get a chance to look at some of the young talent that we have on Chiefs, players like Mduduzi Shabalala, Dortley, the center half, who I saw play once with Bafana, I wasn't that impressed with, but I wanted to give him another chance here in the Soweto Derby. And then also Wandile Duba, who unfortunately did not play in this match. All players, I believe, under the age of 22. And yeah, playing such big roles in such big matches already in their careers. So the match starts, and there's obviously a great atmosphere, a lot of noise being made. And immediately, Kaizer Chiefs are the ones that have a big chance, and it comes from a mistake from the center half Sasane, who I believe is trying to make a pass. He ends up booting it right at a Chiefs player. I think the ball like ricochets off his head, and it falls to Modi, who's through on goal. But Sibo Chain is off the line, and as Modi sort of dribbles past him, he lays down and gets just a paw on the ball and paws it away. And that actually sets two trends for the rest of the match. First of all, Sipo Chain was great off of his line. Just 10 minutes later, another ball gets played through, and again, he picks it off. He picks it off the through ball before the Chiefs player even gets a chance to touch on it. But the second trend that actually went through the 90 minutes was that most of the big chances that you'll see in this match came in from transition play, meaning that one of the teams loses possession, the other team punishes them immediately, and that's how the chances were really were made in this match. Um, as the match begins to settle, after the 15th minute, I notice, in my opinion, my main observation is that Pirates were controlling possession, and more importantly, they were controlling territory. Most of this match was being played either in the middle, the center of the pitch, or slightly into the Chiefs' territory. It wasn't so much in Pirates' territory. Um, and when Pirates were on the ball, they looked like they were completely in control. It wasn't easy, but they were in control. Whereas when Chiefs were on the ball, especially when they were trying to progress it, it looked stressful. They were being harried, they were having their heels nipped at, and so on and so forth. But still, there weren't really too many chances in the first half besides that first one from Chiefs. Mabasa had a few towards the end of the first half. He was very, very wasteful. Um, but when I look at the first half statistics, 51% to 49% possession to Orlando Pirates. I saw some places even listed it at 50-50. But the passing, 164 passes completed for Pirates, 168 for Kaizer Chiefs. But then if you go one step deeper, you see 63 of those 164 passes for Orlando Pirates were made in the opposition half. 63 in the opposition half, 51 for Kaizer Chiefs. So you see, Pirates had more of the ball in the opposition half. And if you want to go one step further, 33 passes of the 164 from Orlando Pirates were played in the final third, whereas it was only 15 for Kaizer Chiefs. So you see, there was that's why I say, like, not only, even if they weren't maybe controlling possession, they were controlling territory. They were dictating where this match was being played. And I personally felt like Pirates were at ease. They were one step above Kaiser Chiefs. But yeah, Mabasa was wasteful at the end of the first half, and again at the beginning of the second half. One of those chances came again from transition, as I mentioned. I believe this time it was the goalkeeper Bruce Buma who tried to clear the ball, and don't exactly remember who put an immediate ball right it back to Mbasa, and he was very, very wasteful. Could have probably scored 2 or 3 goals in this match, um, but it wasn't the case. And that's where I think sometimes when I look at Pirate strikers, whether it's him or Evidence Makopa, they can fulfill a role. You know, they can play with their back towards goal and hold up play and, receive the ball and lay it off to those supremely talented wingers or attacking midfielders. But what I do wonder is, like, when you have when you need a goal and you have those strikers in position, do they have enough of a cool head? Do they have the finishing abilities to score a goal? And I think Pirates can probably clearly upgrade their striking position. You look at, for example, the quality that Sundowns have, whether it's Rainers or Shalulile, or even somebody like Arthur Salas, I think is probably better than any option that Pirates have at the moment. So yeah, around the 60th minute, that's when I started to realize that almost every chance is coming out of transition, and I'm starting to realize that also makes you realize how tight the match is, because when the only chances are coming via transition from losing the ball, that means that when you have the ball and you're in set sequences, you aren't really able to break the opponent down. Mabasa's last contribution to the match was kicking Bryce Buma in the head, I think, probably concussing him. But Mvuma didn't want to come off. I thought he made some great saves, and then he also made some weird gaffes, sort of. He tried to catch the ball once, the ball goes through, hits him in the head, and goes out for a corner. And I think their Chiefs players and probably Chiefs fans and his staff probably felt like he's concussed and we need to take him off, but he refused to come off. And he makes one final great save. And it's in the almost last minute of the match. Mofokeng is through on goal. I couldn't really see who played the ball into Mofokeng, but he makes one of those runs behind the defense. Great control. And Njabulo Bloom pulls him a little bit, but still Mofokeng through on goal. Toe pokes the ball. Vuma makes the save, but the referee blows a penalty. Huge drama, last kick of the game, really. And there was a lot of debate on if it was a penalty or not. Me personally, I thought it was a little bit harsh. If I was the referee, I don't think I would have called it. But if there was VAR, I wouldn't have reversed it either. You understand what I mean? Where it's one of those where it's close enough where I don't think it's not a clear mistake. I personally don't think I would have called it at that point in the match. Like, I just, something about that, using my discretion, and it was a short pull, and I've seen defenders do that often where the player is through anyways. Did it affect his shot? It probably did affect Mofokeng's shot, but we did get to play advantage at the same time. And it wasn't like a huge pull. It was just, like it was maybe not, it was just a short tug, he didn't really, it wasn't, he wasn't hanging on to him for strides at a time. So I felt it was a little bit harsh, but I'm not gonna sit here and pound the table and say it wasn't a penalty at the same time. Um, Initially, Makopa steps up, and I was wondering if he was gonna take it because he did take a penalty against Stade d'Abidjan. And then I saw that the goalkeeper Bryce Bluma was sort of trying to get in his head. And then Patrick Masangani comes on and he's the one that takes the penalty. So I wonder if that was Makopa actually being rattled and saying, you know what, Tito, come and take this, or if the plan was always for Masangani to take the penalty and that was just a ploy from Pirates, just being clever. We'll send one player forward and then we'll switch them out at the very end so they can't mess with him, which is something that teams are learning to do. And then yeah, the Rabona to to finish the match from Maswangani. Uh, I mean, beautiful, 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 beautiful. What more can we say? Um, you're playing in the Soweto Derby. Absolutely need a result here because Sundowns are ahead of you. Um, and you have a crucial week coming up where you have the Soweto Derby, then you're playing against Sekukune, who are a top five team, and then you're playing away to Sundowns. And it's the last kick of the game again, and he's has such a cool head, and he hits the Rabona and it goes in. I mean, I he's one of the players I've discovered this year that I really really love watching. And I just wonder how much of a chance is he going to get with Bafana. I keep saying that time and time again because even throughout the match when he played, I think he played Mofokeng in one of those chances that wasn't out of transition, but it's a deep through ball. And the amount of weight he has on the ball was just perfect. It was waiting for Mofokeng to just strike it, probably first time. But Mofokeng takes a touch, beautiful dribble to cut in, but it was probably one too much because I forget which. It was Dortley that came back, I think, and blocked his shot. Um, was it Dortley or Miguel? I don't remember exactly, but yeah, Maswangani just yeah. Sometimes as I was watching him today, I felt like tweeting Tito over Odegaard because that's who he kind of reminds me of when he plays football. Just beautiful, educated, cultured left foot, and he has such a great vision. But yeah, overall impressed with Maswangani, impressed with Mofokeng, very impressed with Dortley today. I didn't like him the first time I watched him Bafana, but he had, a lot of times he was defending great today. The penalty wasn't on him. Even at times, I remember early in the match, he had to come out to the sideline and defend Nkota. So usually that's just a fullback there, not a center half, and he just bullied Nkota, and I think they called a foul, but it probably wasn't a foul there. So at Dortley, I was impressed with him. I was impressed with Sipu Chain coming off his line a few times, and Bouma as well. If we can excuse, the time where he tried to catch the ball and it smacked him in the face, if we can just say that was just, maybe a concussion or something like that. The two defensive midfielders, Makaula and Mtetwa, uh, I thought they were very, very similar players. Sometimes they felt like twins out there. They both played well. And then finally, Shabalala, one of the players that I really tuned in to watch. I was impressed with him as well, despite the fact that it wasn't easy. Pirates didn't leave a lot of space for him. I thought he did a good job when he could in tight spaces, pushing play forward. I really, really like him as a player, and I'm excited to see what he has in the future. So yeah, Pirates keep the pace in the PSL despite playing a derby. That's probably an advantage that Sundowns have that Pirates don't. When you have Pirates have to play in the Soweto Derby, that's a tougher match than probably when Sundowns have to play Kaizer Chiefs because there isn't that emotional element. There isn't the history of the match. But Pirates manage to win. They keep pace. Like I said, they have Sekukuni and Sundowns up next, so there's an absolutely huge week ahead of them. But if they can come away with 4 points out of the next six, I think they'll be in a very, very good place. And if they can manage to win both matches, now we're really talking. The next match I'm going to talk about is Zamalek versus Pyramids. And this is a huge match between first and second place in the Egyptian Premier League. Uh, Pyramids are a CAF Champions League contender, Zamalek a CAF Confederations Cup contender, defending champions even. And there was only 1 point separating the two teams coming into this match. But still, Pyramids had only beat Zamalek once out of the last 15 matches between the two teams. So as Pyramids, they are a new club. Remember, they used to be called LSUT, and then there was a bunch of Saudi money that came in, and they managed to keep a big budget and boost their squad with all that money that's come in recently. But still, when you talk about them going up against the historic sides of Egypt, Zamalek or Al Ahli, when you look at those records, they still have some kind of inferiority complex. And so the reason why I was so interested in this match, me particularly, was that I was wondering if maybe with the amount of quality that Pyramids have now, can they overcome that sort of inferiority complex? Because when you look at the players 1 to 11 in Pyramid's starting lineup, me personally, I think without a shadow of a doubt, they have more quality than Zamalek do. So until when are we gonna, like say that um history and stature of the club is gonna play such a big role in terms of the effect of this match? So would this be different? And indeed it was. So yeah, the first half was very tight. Pyramids were at home and they were playing like they were at home. There weren't too many chances created. I think Zamalek had the best chance, but they didn't really. I mean, they didn't really create it. They just played a ball over the top. I think it was Nabil Imad Dunga, as they call him, plays the ball over the top. Mahmoud Shalabi is in on goal. And Sharif Akrami, 41 years old, the Pyramids goalkeeper, makes a great double save. First of all, he stones Shalabi. The ball pops out as a rebound to the Tunisian striker, Saifuddin Jaziri, who hits it with his left foot. And Akrami makes a quick double save. But what I really wanted to focus on, because that's something that I picked up on in the CAF Champions League, was how Pyramids use their fullbacks to create a lot of width. In particular, Mohamed Hamdi. Mohamed Hamdi was in my almost in my team of the round of the group stages for the CAF Champions League. I ended up picking the Angolan left back for ASFAR, To Carnero, but Mohamed Hamdi could have been that. And here it was clearly on display why he's such an attacking asset to Pyramids. 19 out of 20 ball progressions up the pitch for Pyramids went down the left side. And you could just see as they passed the ball along the back line, um, as soon as a center half touches the ball or a defensive midfielder touches the ball, Mohamed Hamdi is gone and Ibrahim Adel tucks in, which suits him anyways, right? And it's the same thing on the other side. Mustafa Fathi is an inverted winger. He's left-footed, plays on the right wing, and Ibrahim Adel is right-footed, plays on the left wing. So they tuck in, they occupy those interior half spaces, and the fullbacks get wide and they overlap. And the defensive midfielders, central midfielders come back, cover the fullbacks that go there. And then they'll play balls over the top to those fullbacks, and they do such a great job of using them to create width. Now, they didn't score goals that way in the first half. They didn't really create many clear-cut chances. Most of their chances came from crosses, but the Zamalek center half in particular, Hussam Abdel Magid, I thought did a great job of defending those aerial balls coming in from crosses in the first half. But it was just curious. I thought it was a work of art the way they built up their play down the left, and it was mostly down the left wing. Time and time again, using their left wide fullback, Mohamed Hamdi. They could do the same thing with Shibi, the Moroccan right back, and Mustafa Fethi on the right wing, but they, like I said, 19 out of 20 was down the left side. But yeah, the goals didn't come that way in the first half. All three goals, because Pyramids won 3-0 in this match. All three goals came in the second half, and they all came in transition. So it's a new way of scoring, not a new way of scoring for Pyramids, but like I said, for me, their modus operandi is in possession using the width. So here, the first one was Fiston Mayele's goal, and it was just bully ball. I think the ball comes in from a throw in or some kind of weird ball over the top, and he just bullies the Zamalek center half El Wench. And El Wench, I mean, he's a player that has a lot of experience. He's been in Egyptian national teams. Um, I mean, this should never happen to him. Even though he's a smaller center half, at times he's played, as a left back. Um, I personally would prefer to see him probably as like a left center half and a mid back three or something. I don't think he's physically equipped to deal with somebody like Fiston Mayele. And Mayele just like pushes him aside and dribbles almost through him and slots the ball past the Zamalek goalkeeper. The second one comes from Ibrahim Adil in transition, dribbles past 3, 4 players, and El Winch again is just stuck in no man's land. He doesn't know if he should attack Ibrahim Adil, which he shouldn't have. He should have dropped back and defended Mustafa Fethi, but he's just stuck in no man's land. Adil slots the ball through to Mustafa Fethi, and Mustafa Fethi finishes the goal. And the third one, just yeah, again, bad defending. Pyramids get through the byline. I think Ramadan Subhi cuts the ball back, and Ibrahim Adil adds the third. So yeah, great quality, especially in that attacking midfield of Mustafa Fethi, Ibrahim Adil, Ramadan Subhi. You see why a striker like Fistan Mayala is such a crucial addition. There aren't many very good or great number nines in African football, in my opinion. Fiston Mayele is definitely one of them. His presence, his weight up front adds so much to the Pyramids attack. So yeah, it's a huge result for Pyramids in terms of the stature of the clubs, the statement in the league. Now Pyramids are 4 points clear at the top of the Egyptian Premier League, and I think it's, yeah, just a statement of intent that Pyramids are going to make a very clear run at the Egyptian Premier League, at the CAF Champions League, and we should be taking them very, very, very seriously. And Zamalek, maybe, uh, even though they're defending champions, me personally, I'm not picking them to win the CAF Confederations Cup again because for me, they showed too many clear errors, especially defensively. The only Omar Gaber came off, he was okay. Hassam Abdel Magid was okay, but the left side of the defense was very, very worrying. Yeah, good on the ball, but worrying defensively. The last match that I wanted to sort of break down was RS Berkane versus AFR, and this was another match between first and second place in the Butula. So you could see this was a huge weekend for African football, and there were other good matches in other leagues, but uh, another CAF Champions League contender, AFR, against a CAF Confederation Cup contender, RS Berkane. But whereas in the other match, Pyramids versus Zamalek, there was only 1 point separating the two teams in the league table. For this one, there was 9 points separating RS Berkane versus AFR. Um, and RS Berkane has 9 point separation in the Moroccan League, and they have a 7 point separation in the Confederation Cup, which leads many, African observers or journalists to say that they've probably been the best African team, all things considered, since the beginning of the season. I mean, when you consider they're the only team that finished top of the group, whether that's in the CAF Champions League or the CAF Confederation Cup, and the only team to be top of the table in their league. So Sundowns, for example, are top in the PSL, but they're not necessarily top in the CAF Champions League. They finished second in their group. We could talk about MC of Algiers, top in the Algerian league at the moment, but not top of the group. Yeah. Uh, uh, I I just thought of one exception because I went through like South Africa, Tunisia, all of those. Esperance are not top of the league, even though they finished. I just thought of one exception. El Hilal. El Hilal, I think, are top of the Mauritanian league. They were last time I checked, and they finished top of the group. But yeah, that's an exception because they're not really playing in Sudan, even though that would have been the case in Sudan, anyways. Yeah. So my question was, what has made RS Berkane so good this year? That's one of the reasons why I was so interested in this match was to sort of watch it and would I be able to tell what's made them so good? Um, and my takeaway from the match was that first of all, there's a huge amount of stability in the team. When you look at like the starting lineup of players that played in the CAF Confederation Cup final last year, they're almost all they've all returned practically. Um, and the coach, he's returned as well, Ma'in Sha'bani. Um, I mean, compared to other Moroccan teams in the league, you talk about the chaos that happened at Raja Casablanca. Like I said, they might be on their fourth or their fifth coaching appointment. They changed club presidents. Transfer market was horrible. We did Casablanca brought in Kulani Mokoena and lots of different transfers, but there's been stability at Berkane. And Mouin Sha'bani, their Tunisian coach, might be one of the more underrated coaches in African football. Won two Champions League titles. Um, and last year got to the CAF Confederation Cup final with Berkane. He's only 43 years old, and the way his side have been playing football has been very, very good. Few weaknesses that Berkane have displayed. Their only one splash signing that they really did make over the summer was bringing in uh, a goalkeeper that was shortlisted amongst the best goalkeepers in the CAF Awards, Munir Mohamdi, which was a big upgrade, you know. Munir Hamdi was the starting goalkeeper for the Moroccan Olympic team when they won bronze medal. And prior to Yassine Bounou sort of exploding and becoming the goalkeeper that he was the number one goalkeeper for the Moroccan national team. He, I believe, started all the matches in the 2018 World Cup, for example. So between, I think, 2014 to 2018, here I'm really going off the top of my head, but it was something like that. He was the number one goalkeeper, and he has so much experience now. And even to this day, he's the number two goalkeeper, just behind Yassine Bounou, who is a world-class goalkeeper. At times has been a top five goalkeeper in the world. We could think about his last year with Sevilla, for example, when they won the Europa League, and he had that great year at the FIFA World Cup the very same year. That year, he was probably just behind Thibaut Courtois, maybe for the best goalkeeper in the world, maybe even ahead of Edouard Mendy as well. So yeah, Munir Hamdi was the major splash signing, and it was a big upgrade from what they had before. And we saw that in this match against ASFAR. The other thing that I would say about Berkane is when I look at their squad, I mean, they don't really have uh full internationals. I mean, they don't really have, like Yusuf Belaili, 40 caps for Algeria. Let's look at Pyramids. Ibrahim Blati Toure, how many caps with Burkina Faso? Fiston Mayele, full international for DRC. Ibrahim Adil, these are all like full internationals with high profile names. Um, Not even going to talk about like Sharif Akrami, Ali Gabr. They have so many full internationals, players that have played in AFCONs and things like that. Let's take another team. We really could do almost any of the CAF Champions League teams and many even of the CAF Confederation Cup teams, and you're going to see that very, very high profile names. But when I look at Berkane, they don't even have one player that's in the Moroccan national team besides the goalkeeper Munir that we mentioned. Issoufou Dayo from Burkina Faso is the other example. He's the captain of the team, and he's an iconic player there. He's a center half that's known for scoring so many goals, whether through set pieces or taking penalties. This year, I think the top goal scorer in the Moroccan league has 8 goals, and Issoufou Dayo has 6. And he's been at Berkane for more than 5 years now for sure. And he's been just a rock for them in defense. But if you look at the rest of the team, like your casual average African football fan is not really gonna know who they are. That said, their best players are along the back five. So we talked about Munir, we talked about Issoufou Dayu, and then if you look at the other center half, Adil Tahif, and if you look at the right back, Hatem, uh, players that played at the Olympics at the under 23 level, so amongst the best under 23 players in Morocco. And then Hamza El Moussaoui, the left back, was a player that was flirting with the Moroccan national team, usually on the periphery, just on the fridges of being available for a call up for Walid Regragui, who sometimes called him up but never really used him. So their back five are their most established, most talented, and that's big for any team. You need to have a solid stability, solid foundation. Um, yeah. Other than that, they brought in their goalkeeper. The midfield that I watched, and I think they're missing Khairi in the midfield, but the midfield that I watched between Morabit, Lebhiri, and Kamara, great combination play, so tactically disciplined. Everybody knew their roles. Kamara was almost strictly a defensive midfielder. Lebhiri would shuttle between a 6 and an 8, so 6 and double pivot, and then he would sometimes move to an 8 to make Kamara's role just a single pivot. Murabit was just such a technical 10/8. But then the last thing I would say is that their front line of Mehri, Zghoudi, and then they've been playing with Lemliwi recently as a striker. They're all very good in the air, and this was on show in this match. The first goal came from Lemliwi, headed in a goal. The second goal that was not counted came from Zgoudi, also came from a header. I think the first cross came from Zgoudi to Lemliwi, the second one from Moussaoui to Zgoudi. But that one was just slightly offside. And then the third goal came from Lemliwi on a breakaway one-on-one, and he slotted it home coolly. He's been very, very hot over the last month or so. I think he's probably scored around 5 goals, both in the Confederation Cup and in the Butula. So yeah, these are for me like the main things was like their back line is incredible. They upgraded well. They have good stability, tactically disciplined in midfield, and then the front line. Like when I compare the front line to ASFAR front line of Zahzouh, Thahli, and Beya, like, I don't think they're that much better, if they're even better than ASFAR's front line. But something about it just fits, you know. They do the fundamentals right, and they're aggressive and they attack in the air. So yeah, very, very good team. And I think probably favorites to win the CAF Confederation Cup this year. I'm gonna pick them alongside the Algerian teams actually. But yeah, we will have more CAF Confederation Cup coverage in the very, very near future. as well as more from the domestic leagues. Yeah, this episode's come one day early. Usually release these on Mondays, but because um, you know the matches occurred on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I wanted to get this out on Sunday. We'll be back later on in the week to talk about the African transfer window, to see which clubs from the CAF Champions League and CAF Confederations Cup had the best transfer windows. One thing that you might not have seen is that CAF have actually extended a grace period to all clubs in the interclub competitions, where if they signed a player during the winter window, those players are not necessarily cup tied, or I mean, they can be registered to compete in the interclub competitions. So that should do a lot of good to a lot of different clubs. So yeah, we're going to talk about the winter transfer window just in a few days here. So do keep it locked on the African Five Side podcast. If you watch any of these matches, let me know what your observations were. And yeah, we'll be back in a few days to discuss the transfer window. Until then, speak soon and peace.